Hi, I'm Jesse Ammett, your host of Valley News Now, and I've got our bi weekly financial update with Veronica Redfield. She is from Fed Resource ND, and we're talking about the emotional and mental parts of retirement. Thanks for being here, Veronica.
Thank you for having me. A little different being in my office, but it's still fun.
It is. It's still fun. We got to get used to. Today is not so bad, but we are headed into those months with that four-letter word that starts with an S that we just got to get prepared for. Make sure all of our equipment is working, and so lovely to see you. And you have a friend.
I do. This is Domino. He is ready for a nap,
Oh my
but
gosh.
we adopted him from Turtle Mountain Rescue, and so it's been an interesting beginning because he was actually sick when we got him, and then
Oh,
he was fine, and then he couldn't breathe, and he had to have an emergency tie back surgery. So it's amazing what we'll do for the babies, little fur babies.
it sure is. Yep, it absolutely is. So that he kind of plays into our mental and emotional health as well. But I guess where do we start with this topic?
So a lot of people, when they think about retirement, they think about the financial portion of it, and they don't go beyond that.
Yeah.
And I meet with so many people who, when I ask them what is your budget for retirement, and they're just like, I don't know. I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. I just work now, whether it's kids or not kids, or
Right.
they're just getting through life. They have no idea what they want to do, so we have no idea where to start with a budget.
Wow.
Till, of course, I coach them through it, but you have to kind of have a purpose about retirement. What are you going to do? And what I've found is some people who don't have a purpose, they struggle with that retirement.
Wow. Yeah,
You
but it
know,
makes sense. I mean, you're just busy doing your career. You're just kind of getting through life, a lot of times. And so I get it.
it's a scary thing. Like, I think one of my first retirees, it's the best story ever because it's a husband and wife, and she was already retired, and he worked for the USDA. And when we were in, and it was probably about a couple weeks before he was actually going to pull the trigger, he was going to be done and separate, and he was just white as a ghost. Like, he just didn't know what to do. His face was blank, and you okay? And it was really, really happening. And like, it's kind of a shock to him because
Yeah.
you go through all this planning and you feel like it's far away, and then all of a sudden it's here. And he wasn't even mentally prepared for it, even though he was kind of. Which is even more fun about this particular couple, like one of my first ones that I retired. That so a husband and wife, and she volunteered every Wednesday. So his goal was he was gonna volunteer on Wednesdays too, so they had all the rest of their times
Oh,
off.
sweet.
I saw them 2 weeks into retirement, and they changed their days. So they each volunteered separate days, so they had their own days.
Okay. So now, yeah, now
So
it's totally different than what we thought.
yep, and that's what people don't think about it. So like, I not only about the mental and emotional, like what you're gonna do with yourself, your purpose. You're gonna have to see your spouse if you have one every day. Like, it's a whole. Every people have their own routine, and
Yeah.
it's a life changing thing. Like, you go from work, work, work to what do I do?
Yeah.
And so figuring out what that purpose, and it could be as little as I have clients that they walk dogs. They go to the National Pet Center and pet cats, and like I have people who volunteer. And so like a lot of people just need that purpose to fill. Otherwise, you don't want to go into retirement and not have anything.
You're right.
And it doesn't have to be large, but anything, because then you might get into that form of depression because you're like, wow, I have all this time and I have nothing to do. So who's your circle of people? What do you want to
Yeah.
do? Take a class, do things like that, because the financial part, yes, it's challenging, but so is the rest.
And that's so important. I mean, I've, just seen, parents and in-laws going into retirement. It's like it seems like they kind of think about the beginning part, like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and maybe have like, a certain number of weeks or months of fun things that they want to do. And then when that is done, it's like, uh-oh, I didn't think beyond this. And then,
Right. Well, a lot of, yep, sorry.
oh, no, I was going to say, and then, like you said, the financial part is huge, but that preparation for that change is probably just as huge.
Well, and a lot of people, when they first retire, it just feels like an extended vacation.
Yeah.
It usually takes like a month or so, maybe, to start feeling real, usually from what I find out. But then, the mental part about having to spend your money versus saving it, because
Yeah.
there's that whole fear of, will I run out of money?
Right.
Do I have enough? Am I doing the right thing? I mean, all that kind of stuff where proper coaching can help you get through it. But it's, it's the mental and emotional part about your physical, your mental, your health. Like, take care of yourself. You don't want
Yeah.
to retire. I've had so many people who, I don't want to say they didn't take care of themselves, but unfortunately had some things happen when they retire.
Mm-hmm.
Their goals were to travel, their goals were to do this, but now they're sitting in pain and they're doing surgeries.
Right.
We said, at least thankfully you're not working to deal with the stress of that, but it's still not exactly what you planned.
Yeah.
So with that part, I tell people that you got to live with balance. You got to live today just as much as the future, and you can't save everything for the future. So I mean, my dad died at a very young age. He died at
Mm.
59, and so he didn't get to
Oh.
do a lot of what he wanted to do. Plus, because he was in a nursing home for so many years before, and so I travel in honor of him. So like, I will always, if it works in the budget, if it works in the time, I'll check all the boxes. Like, I'm going. I mean,
Yeah.
my husband, I just gotta drag him along. So.
It's so smart to plan that out. Like you said, don't just leave it all for retirement. But this is what it just keeps reminding me how important it is to work with somebody. And you play a lot of roles other than just the financial planning. You're also kind of a therapist as well, and your mental and emotional health person as well. But I never thought of that either. That somebody who, and I'm sure they aren't all that way, but the good ones are helping you
Right.
through those life changes as well. As far as not only thinking about that financial piece and what you want to do, and just can you afford it, but what do you want to do, and continuing to have a purpose. Because we've all watched people retire and yeah, maybe their health fails kind of quickly, and you just wonder what that's all about. And I think having a purpose makes a huge difference.
Well, and like, I see a lot of people who they come in and they don't do anything, and they're just saving, saving, saving. They're doing an exceptional job saving, but they're not doing a good job living.
Yeah.
Um, but I had a gentleman who was just in here not too long ago, and I told him, you got to have balance. You got to live today as much as for the future. And we had been a few months since our last appointment, and he came in. He's like, "Guess what I did?" And I was like, "What's that?" He bought a pontoon, and
Oh,
him and his girlfriend were on the pontoon even when he said it was raining and it was cold, and they had the best summer ever.
wow.
And he's like, you wouldn't have told me and we wouldn't have had this discussion, he's like, I would have never done that. I would have never saw that I can retire and I can enjoy life.
Yeah.
He never purchased this before me talking to him, because now not only is he know he's on track for retirement and doing a wonderful job, but he got to have an amazing summer and many more to come because of something he actually purchased for them to enjoy.
Yeah. And that's so important too, because when we talk about not having a plan, I mean, you're still preparing, even if it isn't consciously. I mean, you're making choices, I guess I should say. uh, but you can be doing it wrong on both sides. You can be saving, it sounds silly, but you could be saving too much as well, where you're not enjoying your life, and you could be.
Exactly. Like, I've seen several where they're saving every penny they have. When
Yeah.
I'm not, like I said, not one to tell you not to save, but I'm definitely one to tell you you need to live.
Yeah,
So having someone open your eyes to that, I think, is huge.
it is. It
Um,
really is.
and then, just for everybody's sake, like, when you retire, you don't actually have to have these big extravagant goals either.
Yeah.
Some people are like, well, I don't want to travel, I don't want to do this, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I have, you just have to have a purpose in what you're okay with, because
Yep.
I have one gal, she's been retired for 5 years now, and her goal in life for retirement was to nap.
Mm.
She's still napping, she's having a great time, she's seeing her grandkids, all that stuff,
Oh,
and
love.
that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's just thinking about what you want to do and planning for it, and I think also getting that permission from your financial advisor to be able to live. You're like, oh, okay, I can. Some people, like you said, are just so, whether it's how they grew up or whatever, they're just want to save, 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 and are so nervous. But to have you say, no, you're good. You can afford to do this, and yeah, some people need permission, and that's okay too.
Right. And well, it's kind of like that Mount Everest story that I think I told the last time
Yeah.
on here, because you're planning to climb Mount Everest, which Mount Everest is your retirement.
Yep.
Once you get to the top, you're like, now what the heck do I do? I have to get
Right.
down. How do I get down safely? How do I get down well? I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's just the same. Like, oh, you have to think about it. You have to think of your health. You have to think of your purpose. Do you want to be around? Where do I want to
Yeah.
live? There's so much more. And plus, I mean, back to the financial part of it, what do you want to do in retirement? If you want to travel the world, that's going to cost differently if you want to get
Right.
an RV and go see state parks. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to kind of have a goal. And if you don't, I urge you to start creating that bucket list to work towards, so that you don't retire saying, what do I do now? You
Right.
create that list, so then you just open that book and you say, okay, what's my next agenda? What do I want to
That's
do
a
now? Like,
That's
it's just,
fantastic. That's a great idea. People don't think ahead often, to those things like what's next. Even like once your kids graduate high school, it's like you're just so focused on getting them there, and then they graduate, and you're like, okay, wait, what now?
yep, yep. And that's why, I mean, I have these little journals that I give out to when I have people who are just, and I don't want to say clueless in a bad way, but they have no idea because they haven't thought beyond it.
Nope.
And I give them, and I'm like, if you see something that's maybe interesting, but not right now, write it down so that when you retire, you can go through this whole list of things that caught your attention at one time and see what you like.
That's a great idea. Well, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start doing that.
Well, I mean, like, and people don't always have the time to do everything they want now either. So
Oh, totally.
it's just, to me, it's just, you have to figure out the mental and emotional part. You have to know
Yep.
that it's more than just financial in retirement. And unless you want to have that blank stare, like my client did that I said earlier, you have to, the more prepared you are, the more excited you're going to be, and the
Mm-hmm.
more happy you are with your choice. Because I've had people prolong retirement because something's happened,
Sure.
and they felt like they couldn't. And then, if you can retire, live comfortably, not run out of money or whatever it is concerns you have, and have that. I mean, it's people just, they're almost like, what do they say, an inch taller because the stress is gone from the work
Yeah.
and they get to do what they want now versus what someone else tells them to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have people who come in, and I remember when my husband first started working with me, and it was kind of fun to see. He didn't even recognize some of the clients that came in from the first time of them working to when they were
Wow.
retired, because they just looked that different. They looked that
Wow.
less stress. I had a postal employee. She's like, I have nails now. Like,
That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, just what the difference can make to being intentional about it and facing it. I think we've talked before about people just being afraid, and I think many of us are. You're just afraid to look at that retirement thing and you think, well, it's still a ways away. I don't have to look at it. And you go back to your daily grind, but it just the stress it takes off of you to look at it, to have a plan. But this aspect is huge as well, to have the mental and emotional aspect of it, and decide, what you want to do, what fits within your reasonable goals of retirement, and then it's something to look forward to and not to dread.
right. Well, I think you hit on a point too. Like, that is the mental part too of people think they can't start. They think
Yeah.
because they've gotten divorced or
Yep.
something's happened, or they haven't even started saving yet, so they feel like they can never retire. I had a younger kid. I call him a kid because he's younger, and he's like, I'm never going to get to retire.
Oh,
I was like, what? And he's like, well, my dad didn't get to retire. Like, he's still working and he's older, and he just had no hope in life. 'Cause
wow.
honestly, the only reason he came in is because his girlfriend said that he better come in, and his
Okay.
girlfriend wrote a list of things for him to give to me. Um, but if you could have seen the difference in him when I projected out and I said, okay, if you do this and you start saving here, just even a little bit right now,
Yep.
this is what your retirement could look like. I mean, it was awakening for him.
I
Like,
bet. And
it is a struggle for some people just to start.
yep, yep, yeah, because of a million different reasons. But yeah, when that's all you've seen, you think, well, that's going to be me too, but it doesn't have to be, especially if you start
Oh, no.
planning early.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, for the earlier you start, the easier it is to start with a smaller scale. Like,
Yeah.
every little bit counts. Like, I'm pretty sure when I first started saving for retirement, I think I started $25 a month.
Yeah.
I mean, that was on my own. Besides, sometimes you do your work 401ks and you don't really know what's going in because you just
Right.
sign up for everything.
Yep.
I feel like that's kind of across the board. You just sign some papers and hope like heck you made the good
Right.
choice and
Right.
no help. But I mean, my first outside investment, I think, like I said, it was $25 a month, and I was like, oh gosh, this is a big deal. Like, I mean, it's just, you got to start, and it's
Yeah.
easier to go up from there.
Yeah, definitely. And then years later, you're like, wow, so
Yep.
glad I started at that point.
Yep.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, awesome, Veronica. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before I let you go back to your busy day?
No, I think that's good for today. I'll just
Yeah.
let Domino say goodbye to everybody
Oh,
since,
you're so sweet.
oh, Mom, why are you making me cut? Look at everybody.
Oh, yeah. Look at here. I got to take the graphic up so we can see him better. So
Oh,
sweet.
He's not even opening his eyes. He's like, nope, I'm tired. I'm done.
He's like, I'm done. I'm tired. Well,
Yes.
thank you again. Love visiting with you, and we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks. We've got Veronica Redfield from Fed Resource ND, and today we're talking about the mental and emotional parts of retirement. And I'm Jessie Ammett, your host of Valley News Now.